All right, so welcome back everyone to the podcast. In this episode, Zan and dear listeners, dear viewers, I'd like to go further into the topic of taste and style, which we began to unpack last time. In fact, I could go a long way into this. I'm following the rabbit hole. Ever since I put out that first episode, I had one or two little things come up on my YouTube about style, and I clicked, and now the rabbit hole has opened up, and YouTube
Wow.
has literally become a men's fashion thing. Yeah, I need to get out of that phase because they're chasing me around with the theme. But I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's been a few weeks, obviously, because astute
Yeah.
viewers of the podcast would have noticed the last couple of episodes we put out were from a time before. We've been busy with a few different things. Um, but in particular, I want to continue the conversation about style with you today, personal style. And
Okay.
if you have a starting point, I'd love to hear that. But I've also got a comment that I could read out, which I think is a beautiful place to begin.
Yeah, let's go with that. To the comment.
Okay,
From
so
a previous
th-
video?
I think this came in Facebook actually. This came
Okay.
from Body or Bodhi. I'm sorry if
Cody.
I
I know Bodhi.
mispronounce. Bodhi. Okay, in the Amorata Facebook group. So Bodhi says quite a lot. He says, fashion and style has been a trouble area for me my entire life. I've gone through a few phases, but never really found anything that was me. Expressing my personality through clothing has always been difficult, so I default to comfort, tracksuits, etc. I had fun dressing to the nines when I worked at a bank, buying socks to match my pocket square, etc. So I love that first sentence. Like, this has got to be one of the most universal sentiments among men, which is I've gone through a few phases, but never found anything that was really me. Right? It just feels like that's such a
Yeah.
home, to find one's home, to find one's self-expression through style is such a wonderful place to land, but we don't really have a lot of conversation for it, perhaps. Anyway, Bodhi goes on, but my experience of fashion has always been that it just doesn't matter. I've gone out clubbing in a suit and gotten nowhere. I've gone out on dates wearing sweatpants and she jumped me. Years ago, I had a first date with a Ukrainian woman, a ballerina, Victorian era lover, reader of classics, prim and proper. I showed up wearing a wife beater and flip-flops because that was my confidence level. I don't say whether your confidence is high or low.
Yeah, I was
Let's
wondering, is
assume
that a
it was
high
high.
confidence or low confidence? Wife beater and flip flop.
Anyway, she didn't like it and didn't want a second date,
Huh.
as I can kind of imagine. And yet, 7 years later, we have a daughter together and still laugh about the miscalculation she made in thinking clothes define me.
Huh. That's really interesting. Wow.
So, I mean, I love that little story because again, you saved us an hour of time trying to bust the myth that the better your style, the more deserving you somehow how are, and that you need to dress to a certain level in order to attract the best women. I mean, that can be very helpful, but more to the point, that can be a myth that keeps men so trapped, thinking I always need to dress better, optimize more, be more, fill myself up with all the
Yeah.
accoutrements of high status so that I might appear in the eyes of women that I'm deserving, blah, 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 blah. You can cut right through that. Now,
Hmm.
I love the final sentence here, but I'd still like to increase my style. I just never feel anything when I go shopping, and in time return to t-shirts for ease. So I love the sense of, even though I've debunked the myth that dressing a particular way is needed to be attractive and to be valuable and worthy, to have a beautiful thing with a
Yeah.
beautiful woman. Even though I've blown smoke through that whole myth and debunked it, there's still something in that message that's like, I'd love to increase my style. I'd love to implicit. I would love to land in a sense of self-expression that feels really, really me.
I remember just a little story. Years ago, I was in Vancouver and I was a young man. And I went into this department store and there's a woman working there who was a style consultant. And I was attracted to her. So I kind of, and I was broke, but I kind of leaned into her consultant services anyway. And because I was so needy and wanting to please, I bought the outfits she presented to me, which cost a lot. And it was a pair of shoes, a belt, pants, jacket that all lined with each other perfectly. It was well set up. But comparing to the rest of my wardrobe, that was it. It was an outfit or nothing. You couldn't mix and match these things, you know. And I bought it on my credit card, which was like gulp. But she went on a date with me, so so I
Then
got
it was
some
worth
success out of that.
it.
But my goodness, man, I did it just because I was trying to get this girl. But anyway, so the what's described in the message is the understanding that, man, it doesn't really matter what you're wearing because attraction is not a choice. And then the other message in there is I would like to increase my style and become more of something, become more of myself, more of an archetype I see. When I think of fashion and this kind of stuff, I'm always returning to the concept of archetype, which is a Jungian type of thing, which is because I really do believe, and I wrote this in the book, The Alabaster Girl. I'm writing my second book I'm writing now. Your archetype is wholly conceived by you and created. It's not accidental. Accidental is you wear the same trainers or running shoes and the same sweatpants and the t-shirt that you've always worn. In Romania, bless their hearts, the men all look dressed the same. In the winter, they have puffy coats, look like the Michelin Man, and everywhere, and they're all black. And in the summer, they have shorts that go just below the knee, like jean shorts sort of thing, with one fold up, and a t-shirt. And I'm not knocking any of that. I'm just saying that because we've never put any thought into it, or we've never had any instruction or guidance into it, we just default to what is comfortable and hope it's for the best. There are some people who are enamored by fashion and the way they present themselves, and they have an automatic curiosity about it, and they have an automatic self-training about it, and they automatically lean into it, and they I think of some of our Amorata gentlemen that have, you know, very stylish choices in the way they dress, and they just like it personally. They feel they like it. It's cool. It's a hobby of theirs, right?
Mm.
Now, I do believe that your archetype, which is the way I refer to it, the style you have and the way you present yourself, is massively instructive to people on how you represent yourself, how you represent yourself, how you view yourself, and whether you have a self-love or not, whether you have care and attention to the details, like certainly your fingernails are the primary thing that women look at. Do you care about the little details about yourself? Do you have care and attention, like I said? Do you have self-esteem in some way? And do you have, you know, all these things are signaled by the character of you, the archetype of you, the way you walk into a room, the aura and the presence that precedes you, and, you know, which all comes from the way you're dressed, the way you're styled, the way I mean, I'm a mess right now. I just woke up. I didn't comb my hair. But
Your
I
wife
think
beater and flip flops look
my wife beater and flip flop.
respective.
Exactly. I'm on the first date here.
You still got a scarf on, even though you're fresh out of bed.
I just finished a What Would Zan Do live event with 9 guys. And when I mentioned this idea of archetype and finding a style, everybody jumped out of their seats and said, I want this. I need this. I would like to learn more about it. Everybody across the board. Now, I haven't really mentioned this too much, but Deanna, my sweetheart, is the best I know. If I have any style at all, it's because she arranges it. She'll come to my closet and say, this shirt, this scarf, see the red threads that are going through this shirt here, matches the pants. And I can't see that. And she's the best I've ever seen. Yeah. She'll say, yeah, that scarf will work because look, it's got this hint of blue, and you got the blue in the socks. Now it works. The other scarf won't work. And she's precise, and she's an architect and she's a set designer, but she also does, for all the plays she designs a bunch of plays. She does all the costumes, and she worked for a television network here where she designed all their outfits. She's fantastic, and she's helped guys, Amorata guys in the past. And I'm reluctant to say you should contact her, but she's good.
Well, Deanna was melting my brain the last time we spoke because she was telling me about this new way that she was working with people with AI, where she would get a picture of them and then she would look at all the inventory in a big department store in Bucharest, and then through AI put all the clothes from the department store on the picture of the man that she was working with. And then he could decide how he wanted to look. And then she could call the department store and say, we want to try on all these different things, which we've already tried on digitally. And then we'll just drive up to the, and I'm thinking, God, a personal stylist is probably like a 6-month contract to get to know the deeper story that you want to be telling through clothes. And she was like, no, it takes like 3 hours and we try on some stuff. And then the look is, and my mind was boggled.
She's the best I've ever seen at observing a guy, taking a good look at him, sizing him up and saying, this is how this is your archetype. This is you. This is what you should lean into. She's fantastic at it. And, the best I've ever seen. I'm reluctant to say because she's busy. She's busy. Doesn't have any time for
I was going to ask you before making this episode, should we put a link to her consultant? Because often she she's on a bigger project and isn't available. But I wanted to ask you, because even though what you say about Deanna going through your wardrobe, like before you met her, you already had an extremely strong sense of personal myth and personal style.
Yeah. I mean, I was always this cowboy archetype since I was a kid, not in the corporate world, of course. I had short hair and suit and tie and buttoned up. But my wild factor that I had since a child that never left me is still in me, which is the frontier and the north and the wilderness and the forest. And it's still, I spent my teenage years helping a mountain man, in the forest, in the wilderness. He ran a trap line and I helped us with his horses and stuff like that. And so I had no running water, electricity, moccasins on my feet, fur hat that I made. And I was very much a wilderness child without electricity, running water, etc. Fishing with a willow pole, piece of cheese, and that was, and I was very much like the whole wilderness, deep fur clad, like the movie The Revenant, just appeals to me like you can't imagine. I just love that kind of that wild backcountry guy. And that's been my archetype all my life. All the corporate world, I still felt like that, even though I wasn't embodying it. And now, and so I returned to that when I left the corporate world. I returned to the kind of the wild. I wear scarves, wear flowing things, because it represents to me the flow of the river of life, I guess, And so I already had that kind of, I had rings and, various scarves and various accoutrements before I met Deanna. But Deanna she just pieced it together in precision. It's shocking how she'll go into my closet. I should show some photos. She went to my closet and she took 6 shirts, 6 different pairs of pants, 6 belts, because I have lots of belts, 6 scarves. I have a ton of scarves. And hung them up all arranged together. And you could see that they and one had a poncho on it. You could see that these are all beautiful outfits that stood alone. And I took photos of them because otherwise I forget. took photos of these outfits, and she said, look, this is a perfect outfit, you know, the whole thing. She's great. If she has access to somebody's closet, she can mix and match and bring things together like you just can't imagine. And what she did here in Bucharest, we've had guys come from What Would Zan Do, and they hired Deanna for some image consulting. She observed them, got to know them, took their archetype over Zoom before they arrived, estimated their archetype, asked them what kind of styles, what kind of people in history that they admire, that kind of thing. Then went, before they came here, she went to the shopping market, like you said. She picked various things out, and she told the store, listen, I'm going to come here with a client. Please hold these aside for when we come. And so it was, they're in and out in the store in half an hour. Like, the guys are telling me, like, Deanna had the stuff already ready for me, and I just went in, and she knew the sizes. She can estimate. She knows the size, and she had it nailed, man. It sounds like I'm trying to build her up, but she's too busy to do this, but she's good at it. But for the right person, maybe she would do it. I don't know. I'd have to ask, but she's very busy with her design work, you know.
So I mean, you had a professional look through your wardrobe, take out a number of looks, and then you took a picture of each of them. This is your
Yeah,
lookbook, right? You get to go back to these and how do I maximize what I've got? Boom, boom, boom.
I could
But
post his photos,
um,
the outfits that she created for me from my existing closet.
so let's go back to the concept of an archetype. In one of the comments as well, Adam mentioned very cryptically, he said, yes, style. I got a lot out of Zan's Mystique module. Dot dot dot. So he didn't specify what he got from you. But it sounds like this concept of mystique, which you've talked about for a
Okay.
long, long time, this sense of a personal archetype, like where does somebody start? Where does someone who is like the conventional Romanian guy wearing the summer
Well,
uniform that all the other men in my age group are wearing, how do I then decide that I have an archetype that's different or remarkable or needs a different story or
the way
image?
I present it, Jordan, is like, observe your future self. Imagine yourself in the future, say 30 years, 20 years, 10 years from now. What do you look like? Where are you standing on earth? Ideally. What are you doing with your time in your day? Who's by your side? What are you wearing? What country are you in? What villa are you in, or whatever it is, right? Just, and imagine that cool future guy that looks like you, that is you, and that's your archetype. That's who you want to. That's how you present. That's who you want to look like. And then just ask that future self, what did I do here to get to there? What decision did I make when I A-B decision? Left, right? Did I go left or right to get to where you are? Because your future self that's dressed like that, with that woman like that, that's standing on the earth like that, doing certain things with his life like that, is a pretty cool guy. That's a cool guy. It's a guy to look up to. So if you create that, so creating your archetype is to look at that future self, how you want him to look. Like I still have a future archetype of myself. I see myself, I don't know, there's something in me, like there's the aesthetic of the Greek columns and stuff like that, and stone and vineyards, and I don't know, there's something about me that I could see myself like existing in a space like that. And I see my future self when I'm old. I see I'm wearing a lot of white because white seems to flow. And I remember seeing when I was young, Guns N' Roses video. This is so random, but this is the truth, man. And I saw Axl Rose in this video. In this, I can't wait. It was November Rain, I think. In the music video,
I
he's coming.
remember.
There's a kind of a big mansion house, and he's walking out, red flowing hair, and he's wearing all white. And, you know, and the people are wearing all white. And I thought, I haven't seen it for a long time, so maybe I'm misremembering it. But I just thought, you know, that's cool. It's a cool feeling of that sense of white. I don't mean holy or robes, but just the kind of idea that there's something about it that I see my future self, and I'm wearing more white than I'm wearing it right now. I don't wear weight a lot, but I see my future self doing it. So imagination, that's where it comes from. Your archetype comes from imagination, you dreaming. If you're a dreamer of any stripe at all, then you dream into that. You dream, you contemplate, and you consider, and you dream into it. Maybe you need somebody's help, like Deanna, to get you on the right path, to understand your archetype. I mean, like, Jordan Peterson named these 5 archetypes, which is the billionaire, the vampire, the werewolf.
The erotic fantasy archetypes for women.
Yeah, from romantic novels.
Yeah. So this is not the full Jungian circle of archetypes, but it's
Right.
specifically the erotic romance novel archetypes.
Yes. It's not the Jungian one, and it's the romance novel, and and what they predominate, the protagonist or the antagonist predominates in one of those archetypes, and women are drawn to it, and they read books like crazy. So, but I'm not saying you need to like become the vampire archetype or the billionaire archetype, although we'd all like to become the billionaire archetype. But what I'm
Old
saying
money
is,
aesthetic, they call it, right? Old money
yeah,
aesthetic.
right.
Just even Zara and H&M sell a knitwear that looks like it's old money. It'll fall apart in a couple of months of washing it, but you give the impression.
So yeah, so I guess the imagination, contemplation, considering and leaning into what you remember as a child that you looked up to. What did you look up to? I looked up to Clint Eastwood in the Man with No Name movies. Even my book, The Guy on the Train, The Alabaster Girl, he's a man with no name in my mind. He's just like, there's no name, there's no age, there's no nothing. He's just undefined. And maybe I scrabbled a bit of that from my love of the Clint Eastwood westerns, Fistful of Dollars and Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and stuff. Yeah. And I ascribe to that. I ascribe to that archetype. I can't tell you how many
Wow.
cowboy hats because of my childhood. I've got like 30 hats here, and yeah. So, man with no name, kind of like defined me, and I said I want to be like that guy. And anybody who's got any kind of sensibility, I promise you, anybody that looks like a character, like a cartoon character, or larger than life character, for instance, or super stylish, whatever, or has a very distinct look in the way they dress, has done it by contemplation and choice. It's not accidental.
Okay.
I mean, we always talk about the movie The Tailor of Panama, and the very opening
Yeah.
scene of that movie is mesmerizing because it's just Jeffrey Rush. He's the tailor, and he's marking out with chalk or whatever on cloth and cutting and snipping a suit, and it lasts for 5 minutes, and it's mesmerizing to watch it because he's creating something, a piece of art. So yeah.
So let's come back to this sense of an archetype. You said it comes from the imagination. Like I'm hearing one is that you generate an image of a future self. Now I'm curious, first of all, in the comments, how many of the people watching, listening, have an internal archetype of their future self, or an
Right.
internal image of the future self? I'd be curious to know just, how many of you are yes, how many of you know, how many of you had but then neglected it, or what's the story with that? That's quite interesting to me. The second
Yes.
thing is, if you have an image of your future self, to what degree is that generated by you as a contemplation? And to what degree is that just an inner knowing, like without contemplating it, there is an image of who I'm going to be, and that just kind of appears
Well, I think
without the meddling and the design that the
yeah,
mind might do.
I think our friend Bodhi, who had that detailed and articulate comment, doesn't know where to start. So he doesn't have a sense of how he should increase his fashion sense, like he said, right? And so, what I would advise to him, if he was sitting with me here, I would say, you know what you need to do is think about your childhood heroes and what you admired when you were a child, what you wanted to be when you grew up, and and start as make that your starting point for your archetype. Maybe you want to be a firefighter, and the firefighters are always fit and cool and have um, this real ability to take care of situations. You know, maybe I don't know. Um, I mean, that's what I would advise them to do is like try and imagine your mythic heroes from literature or movies, and you thought were cool, and said, "I want to be like that guy" when you were younger. You know, and really go back to those childhood aspirations, and and use that as your base, your starting point, because you have no guidance. For instance, you don't have no Deanna, for instance, right? But you have that. So I think my advice to Bodhi would be just lean into the imagination of how you see your future self. Align that with archetypes that you saw when you were a kid that was cool to you, because we miss those archetypes. You know, we miss it. We miss aspiring to that kind of thing. We used to aspire to things, and we lost it because life beats us down. And go back to the
Mm.
wonder and curiosity of that child that thought that was a cool. I want to be like that guy, and try and mirror that into your future self idea. And I don't know if this is making sense, even to me, but it sounds like what I would advise or what I would do. I think, you know, it's
It,
consciously chosen. You have to choose it.
it's funny that you're here. So I've had a number of conversations. There's been like YouTube and conversations in my own life, and then there's been the ChatGPT version. Like, so
Okay.
in my conversation about style and so on with ChatGPT, there's everything from body proportions and silhouette and rule of thirds and all these things to create a
Uh,
measured, decent aesthetic that's going to maximize your shape, right? That's much more material. The best conversation, what I think is the deepest
uh,
part of the conversation I had with ChatGPT was, you know, and he's like, if you want to know the real secret, if you really want to crack this, you want to define three narratives actually that you are through your
oh, I like
dress
it.
and that your wardrobe. And then ultimately, he said, start out with three and they might coalesce into a bigger overall thing. But you have three narratives, and every single piece of clothing you buy is either going to fit into one of those three narratives or it's not, which is an excellent way of
Wow.
um, protecting an overall alignment in your wardrobe. Because typically I'll go out and I think, well, do I like it? Yeah. Is it a good deal? Like, can I afford it? And does it fit? Great. Then I'll throw it in my wardrobe. But then my wardrobe's full of nice things that don't really add up into any cohesive thing that's larger than the sum
Wow,
of the
that's
parts,
great.
right? So ideally you're defining a narrative, a story.
So there's a fourth
Um,
question that needs to be asked. So does it fit? Can I afford it? But the fourth question is, does it match the narrative, the myth of me, the mythic version of me?
yes.
That's
And
cool. That's really cool.
let's say I've got three different myths, right? One of them is I work in a bank, and another one is I date beautiful women in very casual clothing, and then I have another myth, right? Like I'm a Clint Eastwood fan or a rock star or whatever it is. You know, there's three sides of me that I want to express in different contexts. And then you walk through the world, and then it's easier to start saying no to things you otherwise would have bought because you're sorting through clothes to find something that accentuates one of the three myths. And then everywhere you go, you're telling your story of who you are and what you're doing in the world visually through um, the clothes are all put together to
Right.
tell the
Right.
same
Wow,
story.
that's incredible. That's a great way of looking at it. I never thought of that.
So that struck me. I mean, I've got from ChatGPT a beautiful workshop. I'm like, that sounds really cool. How would you tie that up into a workshop? Imagine you were my personal stylist and you were going to get me to nail this, over the next 6 months. What would I do?
Get a
And then
nose ring, Joel.
ChatGPT lays out a
Get
workshop
a
for
nose
me.
ring.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I like that very much. So it's the archetype, the narrative that you're living, the myth. But then you have to um,
Hmm.
you have to then translate that from, an archetype that lives in the deep imagination. No one is an archetype. right? First and foremost, it lives in your deep, the collective consciousness, or it lives in your deep imagination. But then you have to construct yourself as the archetype by, it's going to be this shirt, you know, with the buttons open all the way down to the sternum. It's going to be a blue scarf. It's going to be this ring and not that ring. It's going to be this belt and not that belt. You are adorning the spiritual layer, this archetype, with stuff. And ideally, you're going to feel good in the stuff. The stuff is going to fit well. There's a lot of parameters to that. There's a lot of, I mean, the big thing that you can get wrong is you actually dress up and you embody the archetype, or you are wearing the fancy dress, the cosplay. You're cosplaying the archetype, which is you don't even look like yourself anymore. You're looking like you're trying to be this thing.
Right.
Billionaire vampire. Oh, look, it's the billionaire vampire. It's not Zan,
But not
who
really.
is the
Not a
an
billionaire.
actual
Not a
person who feels his clothes, like who actually is this, right? You're just wearing the clothes of the archetype that you want to be. How do you make sure that you nail it and you don't look
Oh,
like you're dressing up in somebody else's clothes?
well, I mean, this is a good conversation because 20 years ago, you know, mystery from the dating community um, had this idea of peacocking, which is like black nails, top hat. He would wear binoculars in a bar. Uh, I- you know, this kind of idea of peacocking gets attention, and if you peacock, in other words, the peacock gets attention from the female peacocks. That's the idea, right? He's flashy and showy, and a guy is wearing shorts and a t-shirt and going into a bar and normal clothes, and he's just the guy. That's the theory. And the theory is if you peacock and you wear something outlandish, that's a conversation piece. Women are going to come up to you and say, why are you wearing this binoculars in the bar? Because you're talking to me. That's why. So there's that's the but there's this entire generation spawned across the world. I remember in Poland, and I remember in South Africa, I remember in Panama. You'd run into guys back then when mystery was all famous. You'd run into guys that are peacocking and looking like mystery. They had the same kind of, you know,
Yeah.
accoutrements as mystery, and they had eyeliner under the nail or their eyes, and black nails and feather boas and all this kind of stuff, right? And but you could tell, and you talk to those guys now, because I know some of the guys, or I've met some guys that said, I used to follow this peacocking thing, and man, I tried it. I had the, you know, safety pins in my black leather jacket and all this kind of stuff, and
Mm.
purple hair and mohawks and that. And it wasn't really me, but I was trying to get girls. I was trying to be peacocking so the girls would notice me, and it didn't work. It works for mystery because he's authentic. He's authentic to
So
his archetype.
it didn't work for those guys because it was not them.
There wasn't them. Mystery, that was
Yeah.
him. He's a magician. He's a mythical type of feeling in his energy. And I spent time with mystery all over the world, you know, in different places of the world. And he's just when you talk to him in person and he's talking to the women I know, he's kind, he's gracious, he's normal, he's considerate, he's compassionate, he you know, he's all these things. And he's a normal good guy, but everybody copies his archetype. There's a thing called congruence. There's
Mm.
guys who are congruent to the uh, strong, tall, silent type. These guys are congruent to the entertainer, full of life, full of loquacious energy, right? And they're congruent. But if you try and lean it, if you're a strong silent type and you try to be this life of the party, it's not going to work ever. Well, I'm taking Toastmasters so I can, yeah, you might learn a few techniques and learn a few things to get better at being more articulate and more responsive, etc. But your strong silent type is your archetype, and it's a beautiful part of you, and we need those guys. So you don't have to change it. My brother is one of the funniest guys I know, and he told me, you know, for years I was funny, but I was really doing it for to cover up my insecurity. So I was making jokes and being funny because cover up my insecurity. He came to my weekend intensive actually in Vegas, Las Vegas, when I was in Enlightened Seduction way back in the day. My brother came, and we didn't tell anybody that he was my brother. Nobody knew. He's just a participant, and he came to my weekend intensive. But he said after that weekend intensive, for fun we did that. But he said after that weekend intensive, I realized that me being funny isn't a cover up of my insecurity. It's who I am. I like it. I want to be funny, and I like it when people laugh and I make people laugh. So, and that part of him drained away, like was healed or resolved. So, what was I trying to say? Congruence. You
Congruence,
have
yeah.
to, it has to match what if people dress and act like me or dress and act like you, it's not congruent with who they are. So you have to find that center line of who you are, or the invention that you want to, that you see yourself in the future, and I don't know, it's a fine line, I guess, because you could try on some things and it doesn't work.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, from some men are going to be watching this thinking, bloody hell, it's hard enough to be authentic with my words, and now I have to be authentic with my clothes and my fashion as well. Like,
Yeah,
this is a psychological and a spiritual inquiry to
yeah,
find exactly what I should be wearing.
and you should
It,
do it. My counsel to you is you must do this. You must find this, that you must, and you don't know it right now. You're confused and you're like, I don't know, but you should contemplate it every day and consider it. And like you said, when you're making a shopping choice or a purchase choice, ask those questions. Does it fit? Is it comfortable? Okay. Is it in my budget? Do I like the color? But then ask yourself, does this match the archetype of how I want the world to see me? And lean into that a bit. Yeah, go ahead.
you're very urgent about this, so I'd like to ask, what benefits or difference does it make to have this
Ah,
deep self-awareness so that you can then embody and portray your
mhm.
archetype? Why is that so much better than just being another one of the guys with the summer uniform, with the short shorts, with the one turn up and the
Yeah,
same t-shirt as everyone else? Why even bother? Given that, you know, um, it's not it's not the be all and end all. Your dress is not the final defining characteristic that's going to make you worthy
that's
or
right.
have you get your
And I
dream
tell
woman or
you,
whatever. But so why?
you said that what's the advantage of that, right? The advantage is
Yeah,
this. Not so much that women are drawn to you, although that's a side effect. The real advantage is that when you lean into that and try and understand that for yourself, something changes in your physiognomy. I can't say the word physiognomy. Something changes in the way
mhm.
you stand, the way you move, the way you articulate, the way you look at people. Something changes because you did something for yourself. You pushed the envelope, and you're feeling, and something gets changed in you, in the way you present yourself to yourself. You look at yourself differently. I always say the example. I had a guy for Casamara experience, which I don't really do anymore, but he came to Romania and he was sitting on a chair on Friday night, and we're talking, and he was well dressed, banker looking guy from London, and with a suit and stuff that. And I gave him one of my pinky rings. I said, "Put this on, just try it out." And he was like shocked. I can still see his face. He sat in my. I can see him sitting in the chair, looking at his hand. Really, I wear this tonight. We're gonna go out, right? I wear this tonight. This pinky ring. Yeah, it's an innocuous little pinky ring, but it changed the way he felt about himself, and he was really self conscious about this ring because he never wore anything, any kind of accessories like that at all. And in my house, he was changed. In my apartment, my studio, he was sitting here, and he's like looking at it. He kept glancing down at it as we were talking about other things. He glanced at it. I'm going to wear this tonight. And he went out that night, and he was self conscious about the ring, or conscious. And
The more you say ring, the more I'm thinking of Gollum and the power, the power of
yeah,
his
yeah,
ring.
yeah,
So
exactly. He was like Gollum, right? And you
fight to
and
the
he went
death to
out
get
there
this
looking at
power back now, Zan. You're never having it back.
and I remember observing him in the bar we went out to, and his hand was forward. His hand was front center, so he was kind of presenting it on the bar around his glass, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And women noticed it to him. So it changed him archetypally into something he would never do. And 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 now you see him today, like years later. I mean, he's got rings, scarves, bracelets, necklaces, stuff he would never do. It broke something open for him. So um, I think that I'll tell you this: things like that little pinky ring have power, has real electrifying power. Not necessarily for the rest of the world, but for you. The key benefit of it is that you change. You feel changed. You feel like, it's like you feel like. Watch the movie The Kingsman. You ever see the
Mhm.
Kingsman movie, where the guy's like this, you know, street guy. He's wearing, Adidas sweatpants and sweat jackets and that, and talking with his accent, and then he changes into this archetype of this, spy who loved me,
Savile
sort of like
Row, Taylor,
Savile
yeah,
Row, Taylor, and change
MI6.
and change his whole archetype. So there's power in these little things. The scarf has power. This is a blue scarf. I don't know where it got it. So all my scarves are women's scarves, by the way. Men's scarves are lame. Men's belts, lame. I buy women's belts. I buy women's scarves because women's scarves have a little texture and a little bit of something to it. Men's belts are a square silver buckle with a brown or black or navy blue. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's all the same thing. I don't buy men's belts. I buy women's belts. Because I like the flowing.
But
This
but
scarf,
that's not fashion advice. That's you.
no, that's
And
right.
that,
If I gave
yeah,
this
that's
scarf,
not going to land on everybody.
if I gave this scarf and wrapped it around anybody who's about to go out that night, and they're wearing their t-shirt and they're wearing their short shorts, or not short shorts, but their shorts and their espadrilles, and I wrapped this around them and I tied it and said, "Go out with like that." Something changes in the way they feel about themselves. This scarf alone has energy. I really believe that.
Yeah.
There's something to it,
So it's all,
and I learned that from my travels, and I learned that certainly from Deanna, who's like this pristine costume designer. She has an eye, and she says, "Now here we go. Here's a nuance that'll change everything for you." Boom, and she nails it.
so it's about these items are like a talisman, and it's about alignment. Like I'm
Like a
hearing, you put on
talisman.
this ring, you put on this scarf, and
Yeah.
then boom, it's almost something postural then and aligns to go with this outer thing, and it changes your energy in the world.
If I put this scarf on anybody before they went out into the world, something changes in them. Something will change, and to the better. They'll have more confidence. They'll stand taller. They'll have a little bit more uh, friskiness and a little bit more audaciousness in their conversation because they're wearing something that's that they haven't worn before. For sure, it would work. It
Mm.
elevates something. Would never dampen your energy and think, okay, I suck now because I got the scarf. No, it raises something, and things like this have power. I don't want to put too much emphasis into it because, like you said, this is my archetype, and I don't want people to think that I have to wear a scarf if I'm going to get girls. I don't mean that at all. What I mean is there's something consciously chosen by you that becomes a conversation piece, that becomes something that people can comment on. Women can comment on something because if you're wearing like a nice necklace or a ring or a bracelet or a scarf, women now have the opportunity to comment on it. Where if you're just wearing t-shirt and shorts, there's nothing for them to comment on. There's nothing for them to open up and say, "Hey, I like your blah blah blah." If you don't have something like that, I like your XYZ. I wear a lot of hats. women say to me all the time, "I like your hat." That gives them opportunity to engage and encroach upon your, without, it gives them something to hook onto, which they didn't have with the guy who's just standing there normal.
Yeah. I, I'll give an example of this idea of alignment. You put on the ring or you put on the scarf, and then something shifts internally that reflects this. This is a very different example, but it's the same principle. So, in my style journey, with all of its breaks and punctuate, by the way, just to give the history, because I think this might resonate with a few viewers. When I was in school, teenage years, I felt very self-conscious about my body, and I didn't like the natural
Sure.
shape of my body, such that when I went out and it was like, oh, we're going to swim in the river, everyone take your t-shirt off, I was literally the last kid to take off
Oh
the t-shirt,
wow.
and I'd just be like, so it was like no one really cared, but in my own head there was just like this
Oh
exorbitant
wow, man.
meaning of like, oh, I just don't like how I anyway. So during school I think I substituted that for, well, if I buy nicer brands than everyone else, like the nice brands that I could get my hands on at the time in that era in my growing up, then I will look better. And I I kind of liked actually a lot of the things that I bought, and there were a few things, like there were some expensive mistakes, but there were some things that I really really liked. And one of the things about my body, just about proportion, is my legs are very short and they're kind of round, and then my body is disproportionately long. Like the torso is
Really?
very long, but I have these short legs. Yeah,
I
I
never noticed that.
don't know
Anyway.
why. Maybe problem in the birth canal, genetics, English. Yeah, rough genes in London, where my family were from. But it's been really, really hard for me to ever have trousers that look good. Like
Oh
I
really?
could try on trousers, they're always 2 inches too long. So unless I get a tailor, which I'm not really inclined to do, everything looks terrible. But from time to time, I find one brand and one cut that just nails it. And whatever angle I stand at and whatever I do with my body, my legs look amazing because I found the trousers that nail it. And then I
Mm.
become a repeat customer of the brand. I literally buy the same item again and again for 15 years. I wear it out, I buy it again. I wear it out, I buy it again, right? Now, when I get like a staple that I know fits my body really well, as soon as I put them on, I'm like, and there might not be anything so remarkable about the trousers, the jeans, or whatever I'm wearing to the outside world, but on the inside, I'm like, God, I'm wearing my like Superman costume today. When I'm wearing this, everything is in flow, everything's possible. There's no little part of my mind that's hung up on my trousers looking bad fitting if I stand at the wrong angle, or my
That's all
belly
good.
points, poking out in a bad place. All that's erased because I know I look good whatever I'm doing. So, like, when I
Wow.
find a rare piece of clothing like this, I really repeat it. The other thing I remember, when I lived in when I lived in Colorado, which was about 8 months in total, I so I mean, I had this fashion journey, in fact, fashion journey for, what it's worth. Then I went traveling for like 15 years. Any bit of money I had, I spent on travel and then training, my psychological training, my spiritual training, right? Like clothes were the last thing. From once in a while I'd splurge on something that fit me, that I felt was really good. When I lived in Colorado, I had a blue t-shirt from Diesel, plain navy blue. It was a like a an underwear t-shirt, like for a pajama t-shirt or something like that.
Okay.
But I wore it on the outside. It cost about $40. It was a simple navy blue t-shirt. I think it had a V-neck, and it was the perfect color of blue to bring out my eyes, and it was the perfect silhouette on my frame. Everything looked, if I get the
Oh
right
wow.
t-shirt, it's like I'm working out, and like everything was figure hugging. I literally wore it 6 days a week, and I would come home at the end of the day
Wow.
and sniff the armpits, and I'd be like, oh, that's not bad, I can wear it again tomorrow. And it became like my personal uniform. And I tell you, every time I went out the house, I was like, this t-shirt is, you see, like James Dean always wore a white t-shirt. That was it, and a pair of jeans and his jacket. It was actually a red jacket. All the photos are black and white, so you don't see that, right? His
Oh, I didn't know
leather
that.
kind of
Yeah.
motorcycle bomber jacket. Um, I had this one t-shirt and it fit perfectly. And when I went out, I was like, I don't have to spend like a fraction of a second feeling self-conscious, because I know that this
Mhm.
thing I'm wearing nails it. And I
Matches it.
lived through, like, the whole time I was there, I lived in a flow state. My interactions with other people, my confidence, my things with women, like mischief, like this whole and it was just one blue navy t-shirt and a good fit, like a really good fitting pair of like alternative style chinos, and I had espadrilles. I remember that because when I arrived from Panama and it was snowing actually in Denver, and I got out of the airport and I walked through the snow in my espadrilles, and I had to deal with that for 2 or 3 weeks. I had no socks. I just came out of the tropics. So there's something about my style which is I just came back from the tropics and I don't have proper clothes, right?
Right,
Which
right,
sometimes can
right.
be a problem. But I tell you, like I felt so good. I don't know what happened to that t-shirt, but I was gutted when I lost it. I don't know where it went, but everything about the thing was absolutely
Can't find another
perfect.
one
And
similar?
I, I felt like Samson in his hair. You know, I went back to the
Oh my
diesel
god.
shop. They never had the same. They never had the same t-shirt again. They had all these crazy ones with the big luminous branding, and I'm like, there's no style in that for me.
Yeah, no style,
But
yeah.
that's not who I am. But it worked. Like the one iconic t-shirt, and it worked.
Yeah, there's something about that, something that matches these. What I heard in that whole discourse you said, this blue t-shirt matched my eyes, aligned
Yeah,
with my eyes. That's what Deanna knows how to do, like how to say this is like there's certain colors that I learned from Deanna that would be terrible on me, which is yellow and orange. I can't wear yellow and I can't wear orange because it it waxes my skin or something. It doesn't match my whatever skin I don't have olive, I don't have pink, I don't know what I am. But it's not good for me. Where purples and army green is like the pristine colors for me, according to Deanna.
mm,
Where I have a lot of army green, I have a lot of purple. Strange, eh? So
mm.
that's a informative story what you're talking about, because it's the same thing. Some things have power and energy that are imparted to you, not the rest of the world. It's not like we show up and like peacocking is like so the world looks at me in a certain way and think I'm something.
Yeah,
Whereas
yeah.
where alignment articles of clothing and accessories make you feel like you're aligned with something in your internal archetype that you want to be, you want to represent.
And therefore I'm free. Yeah, I've never worn stuff that was easy for women to comment on, but if I can wear stuff that makes me feel utterly me and then free,
Yeah,
then my presence and my charisma does all that
yeah,
work. So it's like I'm not using the
the
whatever.
accessory.
Some guys come like armed to the nines. But I will say something about your archetype theory. I definitely leaned into archetypes along the way. So one of the things that I discovered to my horror already in my kind of early mid 20s was that I was gonna be a bold guy at some point, and I was fighting it for a lot of years, like trying to keep my
Okay.
hair looking full. And at some point, I was just like, okay, fuck it, I'll get the razor and go for a one all over. Thankfully, I looked in culture and I thought, well, if one day my future self is going to be a bold man and there's nothing I can do to stop that, who is a cool bold man in culture? So I end up like in the
Oh,
destination, like probably every other bold man on earth, which is, well, Jason Statham. He's
yeah, I
pretty
was thinking Jason
badass,
Statham
right? So,
automatically.
so I'm
The best
thinking,
movie he's
okay,
in is
go,
Revolver. Watch Revolver, you'll be like, it's incredible.
yeah. So I'm like, it doesn't matter if I lose my hair because Jason Statham has blazed a trail through culture and showed all the women of the world and all the men of the world that you know this is pure testosterone, badass
Perfect.
English. Yeah, I've got an archetype there. So I knew that the easy, simple t-shirt, simple kind of chino desert boots or whatever he's like big action hero boots type thing, that was going to work. Right. So I had something to lean into. The other thing that I leaned into was,
That's cool.
do you remember the early part of the early part of the century, Jude Law movies? Like Jude Law was an Englishman full of gab, right? But
Yeah,
he was not like the floppy Hugh Grant one who is, not heroic or not.
right.
He was actually nasty. He had a real womanizing dark side. Like you see him in Mr. Ripley, talented Mr. Ripley. You see him in Alfie as well. Like he's got this
Healthy,
kind
yeah.
of snake-like, seductive, manipulative character, but he just romps through the world bedding women. Well, I was like, well, I can borrow some things through Jude Law as well. That's someone else from my culture. Even
Cool.
if I don't have the hair, I have something about the intonation. There's some way I can shape my body or do something with that kind of charm. He became, someone else for my mood board, let's say, of archetypes that I could draw
Yeah, yeah.
from.
What the thing about
So I
Jude
got
Law?
multiple sources. Yeah.
Jude Jude Law is like fascinates me. That guy fascinates me more than other people fascinate me, Be- because I mean he was obsessed with his hair too because he was losing his hairline was going up
Mm,
like this, right? But um, Jude Law is fascinating to me because he's not the Jason Statham type of He-Man looking, you know, archetype. He was soft and lithe and movement like a and he had a very if you very a lot of feminine features in his face, but
hmm
women are super attractive to Jude Law. So they're which is another whole conversation. They're attracted to this He-Man archetype, with a cigar and like the stubble, and he's like got his machine gun sort of thing, right? That kind of stereotype, but they also guys like Jude Law who are not masculine looking, and they're phenomenally attractive to women, you know. And just a side point, like yeah, Jude Law, and he's got that mystique underneath him. There's a new series with him called Black Rabbit, just came out on
mm.
Netflix, and I watched the first episode of it with Deanna, and it's like he's got that same kind of smoldering kind of like I don't know. It's there's something about Jude Law that's fascinating to me. Yeah.
Cool. I have to check out the evolution. Jason Statham's still the same. I think he's wearing the same t-shirt that he was wearing 20 years ago in his first Transformers.
Incredible.
Something never changes. But I like that, you're talking about wearing uh, women's feminine details with your
For me,
clothes.
for
I
me,
like
for
that.
me.
Yeah, I like the complete flip side of masculinity, which is the personal uniform. The
Yeah,
ripped t-shirt with a pocket, the one pair of army fatigues, chinos, whatever you're wearing, the same pair of boots, the aviator specs, and like that's it. I wear the same Steve Jobs style. I wear the same thing
yeah,
every single day of my life because I got a mission and I don't want to spend any excess time thinking about how I actually look. I just want to know that I nail it. So this
yeah.
is kind of the ultra masculine thing. I love the concept of the minimalist wardrobe, the capsule wardrobe, the personal uniform. Like remove all thinking from the equation,
That's
so I can
cool.
then be.
Yeah, that's cool because I lean towards the other side of it, which is more. I want it. I have a poetic looking. I want to have a poetic life, so I want my life to look poetic. I think something like that. I want it to feel like I'm wearing a scarf on this podcast. I'm in my studio, but I was wearing all white. A white shirt and a white jacket. And I thought,
Yeah,
I got to touch it up with something because I can't just. And no knock on your plain white T-shirt, Jared
I,
Jordan.
iconic, timeless.
So we represent the two sides. The one that wants to be the
Right,
uniform, which is like, here's me at my best. Evaluate me on my qualities of who I am, not the way I appear. And I'm all about
right,
appearance.
right. Let
Funny.
me beguile you with this smokescreen of collected stories. Yeah.
That's funny. Wow. Okay.
So where do you fall on the spectrum? I guess that's my question to the viewer,
Yeah.
to everyone tuning in. Um,
What a
how
great
I'd
conversation,
love
though.
to,
It's not. We don't
yeah,
have very.
I'd love to hear what you're taking away from this. I'd love to hear if you've got further questions. I'd love to hear it, especially if this launches a deeper inquiry into
Mm-hmm.
not just what to buy and what brand and what fit and what cut and what color and all that kind of stuff, which is fine, but it's limited, right? To talk about what you're going to wear without having a deeper conversation about the story that you're trying to transmit or communicate through your choices, and then the utility of your clothes and what they're designed for. Um, I think that's a much meatier conversation befitting of the men. And something that I forgave myself for. I, I had obviously the last few weeks I've been thinking about style because the algorithms have got me. But I didn't have to think about style for years because I was living in Thailand and Bali. And no knock on the fashion culture of these places, but literally it's uncomfortable to wear anything more than flip-flops. Okay,
Anything else?
you can have some nice sandals or whatever, but typically it's like what what clothes are going to survive getting smashed up
Yeah,
on my
no dress
motorbike
shoes
today,
and
and
yeah,
flip-flops everywhere, and like even one t-shirt you get hot and sweaty just in something like this. So when I went to Paris in early March, where it's still the tail end of winter, the first thing Adelia and I did was hit up Uniqlo and literally stick 250 euros of thermal undergarments and socks into a basket, check out in Uniqlo and be like, okay, we're not going to freeze to death in our apartment. You know, the first building block of a wardrobe is established. We'll start to brand up like from here. Now we'll go
yeah,
walking
yeah.
and see what the cool brands are that we vibe with. But it's been bit by bit, and of course Paris is, you know, apart from Italy, I guess, is up there. But these are the places where the regular folk of the city have an extraordinary fashion awareness, and they're really thinking about stories and the signals that they're giving off, and choices, and an inch here from the silhouette, you know, means everything to who you are. There's such a refined fashion conversation. Um, but that I found that more inspiring than anything else. I never walked around Paris thinking, God, I need to up my game because everyone's going to think I'm some
Just like get some
bogan
warmth
from the
and then push them up
tropics.
to Bali.
Right. I was like, well, hang on a minute. It might take me 2 or 3 years to build up again a wardrobe that's worthy of a cold, wintry,
Yeah,
civilized city. Yeah, like why rush it? Because I know from a fact, if you try and go out and buy a new wardrobe from scratch, let's say you're going to allocate a few $1,000s to build an ideal wardrobe,
yeah,
probably it's going to be a nightmare because these things they have to collect because you want to get the blue t-shirt thing. You want your items to feel beloved and apt for your body and your felt sense of who you are, right? You can't just go to a store and buy items that work. Like I've tried, it always fails.
yeah.
It's collecting them bit by bit. So
Wow.
yeah, I all this to say, I see this as a longer term conversation rather than
It's
a quick
interesting.
identity change, self-improvement job that you might do in a
Yeah,
weekend. Maybe Deanna does it otherwise, because she's so sharp and
you can short
knows
circuit
knows all she knows all the people in all the stores and all the latest fall winter collections and so on. But
the
I'm not there.
Yeah. Well, maybe, I mean, like if somebody's interested in a online consultation, maybe reach out to me and I'll see if she's available. Reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook or my email, which is askzan@gmail.com, and see. Maybe there's something that she can provide. I don't know. I don't want to
And
put
if
words.
you've got right, and if you final question, if you've got an archetype that you're leaning into or that you're really inspired by, but you're not there yet, if you've got an archetype and you can name that archetype and name that myth, or maybe you've got some movie characters that embody it, write
Right.
them in the comments and let us know.
I
I
would
want
like
to.
to know this. Yeah.
It's simply joyous to hear how other men want to recreate themselves, you know, in the pool of infinite possibility. Why this guy? And you want to be
Yeah.
that guy? I find the sense of self-creation inherently very joyous. So I would like to
I
hear.
like it
I'd
too. I
like to
want to
hear what
know
you're
this
thinking.
too. Because like I very much lean into the Clint Eastwood archetype uh, in the spaghetti westerns and Casanova archetype, the
Right.
flowing feeling, the dandy. I like it all, man, all combined. Maybe 100 years from now, they'll say, I want to be a Jordan archetype.
Imagine.
Jordan from history,
It's
Wow.
going to nail that t-shirt. Yeah, it'll
Get
transcend.
that down. Yeah. That blue t-shirt.
You
I'm
just
looking
got,
for it.
you got to nail your icons. That's what makes you outlive yourself.
That's funny.
All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the podcast, Zan. I'll see you all next week.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.